And welcome to this week's episode of the Funvee Tailgate, presented by ThunderBlogSports.com. I, of course, am the G-Man, Jordy Cannell, and with me is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Matty D. What's up, buddy?
One day from the weekend and a couple days away from the Eagles' home opener.
Woo!
Fired up for that.
Couldn't be more fired up.
No doubt. I can't wait, and I know we're going to get there, but I can't wait to watch them shovel up Eli Manning's splattered remains all over the Lincoln Financial Field after that deep defensive line for us gets through.
Throttle. We'll get there, though. So, week 4 for college football, week 3 for NFL is what we're looking at for the weekend of September 23rd and 24th. Of course, we do need to recap the events of last weekend, and we start with probably one of the most entertaining golf tournaments that I've played in, one of the only golf tournaments I've ever played in, the first ever and hopefully first of many Thunder Cups. Morning round went pretty well. We were both victorious on our opposite sides. So what we did was we did a Ryder Cup style. We did it instead of if you win a match, you get a point. We did the total number of holes you won by. You got that many points. And it's a good thing we did, Matt, because we tied in the morning. So my team, thanks to a somewhat big win by my group and a giant win by Tommy and Jake S., shout out to them. We were up 7. But you weren't going down without a fight. I'll say that.
Well, I mean, I got to be honest, a little disheartening after the morning. Just, it's what happens, especially in team matches when a couple guys are playing well. It was hard coming into the afternoon, knowing you really had to have some individuals kind of go after it a little bit. Yeah. I mean, it was great. I mean, first of all, the whole day though was so fantastic. I'm so fired up for next year's. Great feedback from everybody as well who joined us. Would obviously love to have more people in the future, especially because I'm sure not everyone will be able to make it. I will say though, starting off the day on a 175-yard-ish par 3 was pretty intimidating, particularly for that first group.
Yeah, it was. I still think we might have made the right. We were debating if we made the right or wrong decision, sending the lower handicaps off first to try to keep everybody moving. Once they got talked to by the ranger, it got going. So yeah, jury's out if that was a good decision or not. But yeah.
We needed a big afternoon though, and
I learned the number one rule of 36: don't try to be a hero all day. You need to save your shots.
Yeah,
I played very well in the morning. Even if I had played that well, I think you might have still won. But I
had a pretty good afternoon against you.
You put the team on your back. You were Greg Jennings.
So did Jack. My brother was playing as well. He kind of took over too, and I'll tell you, we got to the 18th not knowing where the scores were.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, although we made a couple jaws drop when we gave them our combined point total, the red team, the communists, they took it by 3. George, congratulations.
The internationals with our Canadian delegate.
Jake, first ever Thunder Cup trophy goes to you guys, rightfully deserved, although I'm sure you'll be out for blood next year in revenge against me, as you should be.
We should do a World Series, like you and me, like not for any sort of trophy or anything, but like you and I just travel some places, like just for our own pride.
I'm all right with that.
Yeah, because especially now that you've played Lights Out, I expect that every time. Like there's always like the sitcom or like the slacker. I always think like Growing Pains, Mike Seaver, like always gets F's and he gets the A minus. Like, right. I need that every time. That's what I need. I need like a 79 from you every time.
We'll go after it. I mean, I'll tell you what, it was a big win for you, but I thought the afternoon went swell for the DiStefano brothers and for the DiStefano let's call it Lucas connection, as Mr. Ben Schmerin also had a fantastic.
Yeah, he went 2-0. Yeah,
he went 2-0 as well. But it was
really Pittsburgh.
And it was really the morning that dug that big hole for us, that not even some epic performances in the afternoon and a combined 14-point me and Jack twosome couldn't even bring it home in the end. I know. But it was a great time. And also,
me and Jake not doing so well. But
well, I think the front nine was tough for you. But after that, you kind of you settled a little bit in the back. But
yeah, the front nine was tough for me. The Heat, the random mid-September Jersey Heat really got after me. But I knew there was the one shot that I knew that just wasn't my afternoon, and it was definitely yours. Was you're pinned behind a tree. For those watching or can imagine it, you're less than a golf ball away from a tree trunk, and Matt just kind of slaps his club right down on it and puts it to like 20 feet, nails the par putt to have the hole, and I'm like, this is I don't know what to do. It's his day. It's not my day.
That was the 10th hole, and came in up big. And I knew I needed to at least not allow you to get any hope.
You were up 5. And
I was up 5.
And it's not like, because you actually did win with 5 holes to play. You beat me 6 and 5, but then ended up winning up 9, which is what matters. But you're up 5 in the 10th hole. You even were almost about to concede, and that would have been 4 with 8 to play, which is tough, but it could have been possibly done. You still played incredibly well. But overall, I'd say incredible day. Everybody had a blast, from at least who I talked to. The two true endurance champions were myself and Mr. Ryan White, the birthday boy, making it all the way to Fogo, which I'd never been before. Fogo de Chao.
Oh, I'm so bummed. Job. So bummed.
Yeah, next year we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
we'll go somewhere where we eat at the club, so we all have it. Hopefully, Jack gets a hole-in-one, so he's buying us all beers. Now that he's Mr. Big Money in New York City, he'll buy us all beer. But let's go right into it. We'll give you more updates as we get back into the golf season. But football, that's what we're all here for. It's why it's the Funvee tailgate can go everywhere, I guess. But it starts with football. It ends with football tonight. College football week 3 still had a good matchup. We talked about this last week. Good slate and some great storylines to come out of it. Definitely, it's hard to match week 2 though. But I still had an entertaining time catching up on highlights the next day. I was in the airport for most of the day and in my hotel room because I went away for work. But yeah, Matt, what was your biggest takeaway from week 3?
Well, it wasn't as big of a week, say, for, for some of the bigger matchups we've seen. And we saw some teams do what we expected them to do. I thought some teams made big time statements. Oklahoma State really being number 1 on my book. I know Pitt, tough coming off of a week where you play Penn State, but still, they're at home. Maybe they put up a little bit of a fight. Out of the score, honestly, Oklahoma State won 59-21. And that's because they let up at halftime. They could have smoked Pitt out. I think it put Oklahoma on notice. Mm-hmm. So to me, I thought it was also a time for some teams to make some statements. And that would be my biggest one. I was very impressed with Oklahoma State. And we'll get to them a little later when we talk, but that was a big one for me.
Yeah, that's definitely a nice statement win. We were peppering your brother about this a little bit of going on Penn State and Oklahoma State if you want to qualify them in this, but there's a number of undefeated teams that really haven't fully been tested yet, given how Pitt, they covered, or they didn't let Penn State cover. They, and they played okay, and you're right, they could have been a lot worse. There's some teams, including, our darling Wolverines, who, and Penn State's also in there, that haven't really played a ton. Penn State obviously goes on the road for a huge game, but we'll get into that. It was interesting, though, that there were a lot, kind of on the same note of Michigan, that there were a lot of games that were a lot closer than they needed to be. Michigan, once again, had kind of a wonky day on offense. They win by 16 over Air Force. The Cadets playing their second game. USC coming away with a double overtime thriller against Texas. For whatever reason, this is coming quite the interesting rivalry. And Alabama, they only won by 18 points, but You think Colorado State coming on the road, they've played a couple extra games, first true away game. You think Nick Saban, he'd really pump down on the gas and really run over him. So I thought that was really interesting that there were a lot of closer games than they needed to be, and never really was afraid of the upset alert. But the fact that it was, in the realm of ATS upsets, kind of had me a little shocked.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a week where we saw some teams probably looking ahead to major conference play. Yeah. Maybe that's why you saw, though.
Crap week.
I will say, I think you've seen kind of a up-down early on from USC. And they may not be afforded that same opportunity with a surprise 3-0 Cal team, who we picked to not have as great of an early start as they have, and they look better than expected. So they're going to get tested again, USC, and they really need to pick it up. My concern was, you watch some of these other teams like Michigan struggle against Air Force, but they struggled offensively. Their defense has still scored as many touchdowns as they've given up on defense, which is amazing. But if you're USC, I know you beat Stanford. That was a big time win, but you got to get up for the not ranked opponents as well. Now, then again, Stanford went ahead and lost late in the evening last week to San Diego State. So maybe they're not as good.
So I should have said fully out, because there were late losses, especially by those Pac-12 teams. But if you're USC, I mean, you now need Texas to do really well to kind of keep your reputation high,
especially in a season where, when we look at some of these top teams, I mean, there's going to be 5 to 6 teams really vying for a spot. And just like with, say, Penn State last year, I mean, if your record's close, they'll put a team in that they think is better, even if, they have another loss or so. So I think that was important. I'll tell you what, definitely shocked by some SEC teams, both good and bad. Vanderbilt goes and takes out Kansas State, one of the best coach teams in the country. Shout out to Ben here. They're going to play Alabama this week in a game that I'm sure Alabama circled as an easy win, while LSU went in and got throttled. I mean, absolutely 37-7 smoked out of nowhere by Mississippi State, which I think shows you that the SEC is not this conference that it used to be, other than Alabama.
I agree. And even Auburn, they only came away with a 14-point win over Mercer. So, I mean, it's they're in a weird spot. And Georgia, a team that we kind of thought, where are they going to sit? I mean, they almost look like the SEC East is practically theirs at this point. They looked pretty well last Sunday. Granted, it's against Samford, but still, I mean, putting up 42 points and basically sitting everybody in the fourth quarter isn't an easy feat.
Right. I do think, so to me, Georgia now has kind of separated themselves early with some big time wins, by the way, Notre Dame. And they've got a big matchup this week against hotshot Mississippi State. So we're going to learn a lot about them, I think. Georgia, they lose Easton, their quarterback. That's kind of a tough blow early, but they've bounced back. They've got a great running back in Nick Chubb. Are they going to be the ones that challenge Alabama in the SEC? I don't know if they have a challenger right now, really, in the SEC. Yeah. I mean, Auburn's always going to be a tough game, so you can never count that one out. But if Alabama wins out, they've done their job because they beat a great Florida State team early. So, I think it's an amazing. And I was fascinated to read some articles about how, because of Alabama's dominance, you've seen coaching turnovers in the SEC that may be hurting the conference. So Alabama's dominance may have caught up because these other historically great programs are demanding the same kind of success that you're just not going to get because Alabama is a true dynasty right now. And it might be a shame. Coaches are too quick, are getting pulled and fired too quickly in the SEC because they can't compete with one of the greatest runs in college football history, 5 of the last 10 national championships in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's just interesting that you're seeing a lot of, like you just said, a lot of turnover, a lot of kind of disappointment because you can't match with greatest coaches, if not the greatest. That's a bold statement, but one of the greatest college coaches ever. And it's just tough. I mean, everybody was kind of power grabbing, 5 years ago, basically, a little longer than that. But to get different teams in there, and it kind of stinks if you're the Missouri or you're the Texas A&M more so because they play Bama every year, that have kind of gotten this unfortunate draw of having to play a great Alabama team, but then in those off years they have the Auburns, they have the Floridas, they have, even Mississippi and Mississippi State in the last couple of years, or really Mississippi a few years ago, but it's just been interesting and how that's all rolled in.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think you're looking at an SEC that now is more entrenched in teams ranked in the 20s almost.
Yeah.
And you used to have five teams in the top 15, 3 up at the top. And I think that's a little different now. We're seeing a little more parity, which is good, although we're still seeing the same team at the top. I thought I got an interesting argument this week about how we're ranking the teams, because probably the biggest game of the weekend had to be Clemson-Louisville. Clemson,
yep.
Even though Lamar Jackson had some statistical success, really bottled up the Heisman Trophy winner. And I thought kind of put their stamp on the fact that they're clearly the defending champions and clearly have the talent to do it again. And yet they're still ranked number 2. And the point that I heard was made was, well, Alabama, they get preferential treatment, like someone said, like Dallas. And I said, well, here's the difference. Dallas gets preferential treatment. They're America's team. I don't
quote unquote.
Right. But Alabama's won. They've won 5 of the last 10. They're in every national championship game. I know they lost to Clemson in the last second, touchdown, and it was one of the best games ever. And Clemson beat them. No doubt one of the historically greatest defenses, in college football history. And Alabama got torched by Deshaun Watson and company. But, Clemson is a national title, defending national champions, and they've done nothing but prove themselves now. Should they be ranked number 1? I can see the merits to that, but it was a fascinating argument because Alabama, they played Florida State, and we know how good they're going to be again. And yes, there is some bias, though, I think, whether it's the AP or the coaches poll, that Alabama is the number 1 team because of their past success more than any other program.
Yeah, that's an interesting argument. Part of it, too, is what the college football playoff poll has started to show us. Is that the AP polls is you get put there beginning of the season and you don't move unless really you lose or you don't beat a bad team by enough points. And the latter only really happens through the first couple weeks. Granted, we're still within the first few weeks of the football season, but when you're playing quality opponents, when you're a team like Alabama who has the pedigree, it's tough for to really move that rock from the top of the stack.
Yeah.
We'll see though how the committee does it. We've seen numerous times a team that was 3rd in the AP poll and remains in 3rd through the college football playoff poll, put it 5th, put it 6th. So we'll see what happens. Of course, that's assuming everybody stays where they are now. But it's interesting how those polls play out that way.
Yeah. No, it's just a great argument. I do think it's going to work itself out regardless because both are going to start to play, although I am saying I don't know if Clemson, because of Florida State's, and then, by the way, one of the games to watch this weekend I'll get to is Florida State because how are they going to respond, with a young – they've only played 1 game and we're in week 4 because of the hurricane issue. So – how are they going to respond with the new quarterback? They play North Carolina State, a team that I think some people thought was going to be pretty decent this year. Good early test to see if when the time comes they'll be able to compete with Clemson on the field because Clemson's defense may be the best in the country and their pass rush is definitely the best. So Clemson may not be as challenged as Alabama. I know we just talked about how the SEC is down, but I don't know if I love a lot of ACC teams now that they've gotten through Louisville. Tech is there as well, so I want to totally poo-poo the conference, but could be interesting. Clemson might have an easier finishing schedule than Alabama, but I think if we look ahead to this week, I know I touched on Vanderbilt, Alabama, USC, Cal, NC State, Florida State is great matchups. And anything else? And we touched on Georgia, Mississippi State a little bit. Anything else that jumps out to you on the schedule this coming week?
Yeah, so there's a couple for me. A couple in the Big Ten. One tomorrow night. That's in the Pac-12. Number 23, Utah, traveling down to Rich Rod and the Wildcats of Arizona. Utah comes in at only, I believe, a 3.5-point favorite on the road, over under 56, saying that it should be a shootout. That's a total of, I believe, 8 touchdowns. Am I doing the math right there? But regardless, yeah, I mean, that'll be a good game. Arizona coming off to a nice little start. You and I were both a little down on them, but road challenge for the Utes, who are cracking their way into the top 25. Also in the Pac-12, actually. So 2 Pac-12, 2 Big Ten. Rematch of last year's championship game with Washington traveling to Colorado. An interesting test there. Colorado off to a hot start at 3-0. Kind of in a similar boat that they were last year, except at this point they had already lost to Michigan, who's a team I'll touch on in a second. So it'll be an interesting game if Colorado plays them tight at home. That could be a really nice win for the Huskies, and it could help them out as the season goes along, especially as USC has, interesting bumps, if you will. They as they've been playing, not necessarily potholes or anything like that they've fallen into. But my other 2 games are the 2 Big Ten games. We've talked about this before. Purdue and Indiana, those 2 Indiana schools, not easy outs. They will potentially give the Wolverines a tough time. So it'll be interesting there. Michigan's only a 10-point favorite. But the big one you got to think about is Penn State, Iowa. Iowa comes in as the home team here. It's on ESPN. Is it game day? Do we know?
I don't know.
Yeah, I forgot to look it up if that was game day or not.
I'll look it up. I got 1 second here.
Yeah, but they come in as a 13-point home dog against the Nittany Lions. 3-0. Penn State really statistically comes in as this massive, massive powerhouse against them. That's not really what I was known for, but it's an interesting line because that stadium is going to be rocking. It usually is. And it'll be interesting to see how Trace McSorley does on the road and how dominant Saquon Barkley can be against a traditionally good defense.
So I'll tell you, and I think that's an important matchup because they really haven't played anybody other than a overwhelmed by scheduling Pitt team. The location for College Game Day tomorrow, Saturday, will be Times Square.
That's
first
right.
time ever in New York City. Not really attached to a game, but I think that's the slate, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. We were talking about this offline and how we wanted to try to keep it quick. And the schedule kind of keeps it to us, for that it's not necessarily the biggest slate here, but a lot of definitely important games that'll have a lot of meaning down the line. We say that a lot, but I mean, This game for Penn State could be their, a first in a number of signature wins for them. And Michigan, this could be also, it's a good test, especially if Purdue comes out like they have, a number of wins that could really, really help propel some teams, going forward. So kind of helping up the base of your case, if you will. Not to rhyme.
I do think another game to really highlight, and this is going to be a fascinating matchup that I don't think enough people know because of one team in the matchup, and both are ranked, actually. It's our only one of 2 ranked versus ranked opponents, and that is Oklahoma State versus TCU.
That's a great point.
Oklahoma State, a lot of press. Mason Rudolph, got to be a top 3 at least Heisman candidate at this point. I know it's early. Playing number 16 TCU with Kenny Hill and a team that's kind of evolving on the fly, but a talented football team that's going to give Oklahoma State their first real challenge of the year. And I think that's a matchup to watch simply because I think TCU is well coached and has the potential to at least finally test this very talented, offensively diverse, and dynamic offensive team for the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So just a couple notes. The over-under for this is 71.5.
Oh, I'd take the over. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, the last time I can really remember this was when Baylor and TCU were both making the run in 2014, which I think was like a 73-point over-under. I mean, that's just – if you don't like defense, just watch this game and then watch it on repeat for the rest of the afternoon. It's going to be on at 3:30. Surprising Big 12 in-conference game on Fox, which – Notre Dame also surprisingly is playing a Big 10 team on Fox. So I guess good for Fox getting some diversification and Notre Dame. But enough of the programming. Yeah, that's a great pick. I think that's definitely one where we'll see a lot of scoring. If Oklahoma State's defense, though, can keep that to the under, and really they cover still, they're a 13-point favorite, that'll be definitely a fun one to see, and that's a real statement to the rest of the conference.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be because I think Oklahoma State, to me, they're the team that's going to threaten Oklahoma.
Oh, for sure.
And so I think this is a huge matchup. Oklahoma State can't have a letdown like we've seen the last few years where they lose a random game. So this is a big game for them. It's a big time matchup for them.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, that'll probably do it for the college football part. Our Lehigh Mountain Hawks still looking for their first win, unfortunately.
Look, all that matters is November.
Yeah,
okay?
It's true. But they do play Dr. Dan's medical school, his undergrad and his medical school. So it's existential crisis for him.
We got to beat them.
Yeah, it's a home game. I mean, so that they don't have to they don't have to be intimidated by the Brains. Last year they were a little bit at the beginning of the game. They were at the Yale Bowl. Actually, I think it was at Goodman last week. But yeah, and you're right. All that matters is November. Be nice to see another playoff appearance. But that's about it. Let's move on. Let's go over to the NFL Week 2. Let's get your thoughts quickly, Matty D. What'd you think?
Some teams that should be good were good again. AKA the New England Patriots. I thought, just typical NFL stuff. I thought we saw a lot of teams. Injuries definitely hurt. We saw a lot of teams come back to earth, and I think I would point out the Jaguars were one that a lot of people were really high on after Week 1. The Rams. So I thought we saw some teams that came back to earth, but really just a week where, and the Vikings would be another big one. I know Sam Bradford didn't play, although typical, Sam Bradford didn't play due to injury. That's another big game. So some teams got broken, but I thought one of the biggest things was we finally got to see the Buccaneers play and really dominate a Chicago Bears team and show that they're going to be in it this year, which I think is big time important. And they look good, better than I expected even.
Their defense, I mean, you can say what you will about Mike Glennon. You can say what you will about an injured Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen still playing like a very, very young player. But that defense made them panic. It made them pay. And it wasn't really until the very end that you saw the Bears kind of get something together.
Right.
I watched a lot of this game. I was in Chicago, so it was on pretty much every TV except for a few. Surprisingly, had a lot of the Jacksonville, Tennessee game, which I was shocked by. Shocked by. But I got to see a lot of this game, and JMO looked good. Jaquiz Rogers looked pretty great. Shout out to him. Shocked by that. But yeah, that Bears defense or the Bucs defense, though.
Yeah,
on that Chicago.
I know it's against the Bears, but it's a big statement early on as well. I want to point out another snoozer Thursday night game. We've got one going on currently. I bet half of the football fans in the world don't even know the Rams and 49ers, unless you own Todd Gurley, who does have 3 TDs today.
He's having a big night. Let's not say it's a complete snoozer. Todd Gurley owners, big night for you.
They've got to do something. I know that they've got to have some teams on national television. I know they can't flex until later in the season, where all of a sudden you get some really great games late. But that was just quite the snoozer. I did think that. To me, I walked out week 2 thinking that there was one division clearly the best in the NFL, and that is the AFC West. The Broncos throttled the Cowboys. I mean, I'm talking it, and I know it was at home, but the Cowboys, and I know we all think they're a little overrated, especially as Eagles fans, but even as objective fans really thought the Cowboys were overrated, but throttled them. The Raiders throttled the Jets. The Chargers should have kicked a field goal to beat the Dolphins, and excuse me, the Chiefs beat a good Eagles team in a pretty competitive game. That was that was tied in the fourth quarter. So best division in football, and I don't even think it's close because, quite frankly, the Chargers would probably win 2 or 3 other divisions in the NFL if they weren't in the AFC West.
Yeah, I agree. That was some pretty exciting stuff to watch. That Broncos team, it was delayed. We do need to note that, and they came out of the delay pretty well. And the Cowboys look terrible. But that Broncos defense, we'll see.
Wow,
we see Broncos them still good, and they've lost some pieces there, so not really totally missing a beat. The one other late game I was pretty shocked by was Seattle. Seattle not in the biggest of wins in terms of that game. I thought they would have done a lot more to put away this 49ers team that we just got finished talking about tonight, not looking good. And they still didn't look very good against Seattle, but I mean, the Seahawks offense. Ooh.
Right. Once again, offensive line issues. That's really been the thing, and something that we've seen with Seattle over and over again. And an over-dependence on Russell Wilson, not his fault. They really need to run the football. They've got a bunch of good backs, and just see what they can do, because I've been unimpressed with Seattle. They might be the worst division winner in football this year, early on at least, because they look like the favorites, because I'm not convinced the rest of the league can do it.
Classic NFC West style.
Yeah.
Really National Conference West, because the NL West had been this for a long time before the Giants and Dodgers got good.
No, right.
Baseball reference.
Right.
But time to be objective is over about week 2. Let's be completely subjective. Give me your completely biased rant about the Eagles.
Well, once again, and I never like to say we were supposed to lose games, but we weren't. The Chiefs are a better football team than us. I saw that. More experience at key positions. I don't want to blame the loss on any one person. That's not right, because there's a lot of things that went wrong. I'm blown away, though, that Vinny Curry, and no one's talking about this, needs to sack Alex Smith on that big third down play.
My God. How huge is that play?
And they're talking about how the running game, which I have some huge problems with, wasn't effective. They're talking about how the offense struggled while the defense played okay. But if
he gets like an inch higher, the game's completely different.
He sacks him there. They might kick the long field goal. They might not. We get the ball back. The game is tied at this point. I mean, boom. But it's all about the turnover battle. And I think the turnovers were tough. Sproles never fumbles. I didn't think Wentz's pick was even a bad pick.
Whose helmet did he throw it off of?
One of the pass rushers. I don't even remember who it was. I mean, that's just unlucky, but it's still – we don't generate enough turnovers. Now, that's the Chiefs' game, right?
Yeah.
I'm not concerned, but I'm not concerned about the Eagles. You can't have – you got to run the ball more effectively. You do have to give it to LeGarrette Blount, or just give it to somebody. I don't care. I'm not a Smallwood guy because I don't think he pass blocks well enough. But, yes, you've got to run the football to be effective. I just think the Chiefs are a seasoned team that, forgetting even opening week when they throttled the Patriots, this team was, 12-4 last year? They won the division? I mean, we're not talking about a bad football team that has also gained weapons on offense. But I'll tell you, some of the play calling from Peterson, I don't want to just bash the guy, but it's like you're watching a guy learn how to coach sometimes. I'm not saying I'd be any better, but, man, I think sometimes he needs to change he needs to call better plays. I don't understand some of the things he calls out there. It really bothers me. But you know what? It's early. We're tied for the division lead. No major injuries. I know Ronald Darby was out week 1, but Nothing major at, say, quarterback or wide out, or anything that we can't overcome early on, which is important. So we're winning the war of attrition early on, and Wentz has looked really good, although I don't love his deep ball accuracy still. But
I mean, he's making some good checkdowns on Sunday, though. I mean,
oh yeah, and
he looks confident. He was playing pretty well. Hilariously, so I mentioned I'm in this Chicago bar. I was in a conference for work, and I happened to just be in a corner, one of the corners. They happened to have the Eagles game on, and there was maybe a dozen people watching this game. Way more than I would have thought in a Chicago bar. Turns out a few of them live in Chicago. The rest are advisors at this conference I'm at. So cool. I end up making a nice connection. Works out well for me, professionally. But they're all from, get this, Fargo, and they just love Carson Wentz.
Wow.
They love Wentzies. Now there's a large Eagles contingent in the great state of North Dakota.
I love it.
Are they Big Green now? I don't know what the University of North Dakota changed their name to, but go them, go Bisons. And any other colleges that are in that state.
Yeah,
go you guys.
I'd say he's definitely he looks like a really good second-year quarterback. That's what I think. He's making some mistakes, but he's only getting better, and he looks primed. And he's got some more weapons, and he hits Torrey Smith on a couple passes here or there, and he starts to use Alshon Jeffrey for what Alshon Jeffrey should be used for.
Sure.
I think that's something that people are forgetting, that they're still kind of feeling each other out to some extent. So,
did you like the play from Ertz? I feel like that he could have gotten involved a little more. He had that nice little lucky catch towards the end of the first half, but I feel like he could have gotten involved a little bit more, especially in the second half.
Yeah, I do think so. But here's the thing. I'm a proponent of, and I watch enough teams, and I go back and I harp on a team that I want to emulate because they have championships. But the Patriots don't care who you are. When the game starts, they have their game plan, but they throw to who's open. So if Jeffrey and Smith are going to let Aguilar be open, go to Aguilar. We've already seen that the addition of some weapons has allowed Zach Ertz to get more open. Awesome. We need to start hitting Sproles. Well, let me tell you, if I don't care about his deep ball, if Wentz could fix his ability to throw a screen pass to goddamn Darren Sproles, I would be a happy Eagles fan.
That's true.
But I'm not. I'm not a happy Eagles fan. So
yeah. Yeah, he throws those bullets in, no matter who the running back is, whether it's Sproles, Smallwood, Blunt, who I think is criminally being underused, but you can also say he's old, but I think it's just push him right down the line. Just have him push the line himself. He could probably do that. I think the defense played pretty well for what they could. And we said this last week. We both picked the Eagles with points. We thought the Chiefs wouldn't cover the 5.5 point spread. Obviously they did. They won by a touchdown, so that's a loss to both of us. But look into week 3. We mentioned this before. So before we get to going back to being objective, Matty D and G-Man.
Back to objective. We're not back to objective.
No. Before we do, let's just look at the Giants game, especially because hopefully Dr. Dan listens to this. Maybe Alan makes him listen to it because we know that Alan will. Let's get your lowdown, the scouting report before you're literally on the field not literally, basically on the field on Sunday.
Well, I expect it to be low scoring. I do. The Giants defense is super talented still. I think they're going to be able to shut us down in a lot of ways, but I do think the one thing you could potentially do is their linebackers are not the strength of their defense. Their strength comes from the secondary and the defensive line. You got to find a way to isolate them, whether it's with Sproles or Ertz. Focus on the linebackers. Run the football to gain the balance that you need to allow weaker linebackers to be able to be susceptible to play action. I think that's really important. Offensively, you cannot – defensively, excuse me, I expect us to be all over Eli Manning all day.
Yep.
And I think the key is Odell Beckham is not fully healthy. Brandon Marshall looks awful. Limit a big play get to Eli, whether it's with 4 with a blitz, but it should be with just 4. Brandon Graham, or I don't care who. Someone needs to go after Eric Flowers because he looks horrifyingly bad for the Giants. Let's get in Eli's head early, but I think the key is we've got to win a turnover battle this year. We cannot be turning the football over.
No.
I think we do that. I think if we limit turnovers and get to the quarterback, I don't care about anything else. Those two things, we win the football game. And once again, I think my secondary would be figuring out a way to attack their linebackers, whether it's with the running game or with making them move in space. To me, those are the two big things offensively for us to kind of focus in on.
I love it. I love it. I just want to see him just pound them. I mean, the Lions did a great job at doing that. I think the Eagles could also have a pretty good shot at it. I think that defense, will eat them up all day. But let's go back.
You ready?
Time. Cold hard locks. Week 2, quickly to recap, wasn't so hot for either of us. We're still figuring out the bumps from against the spread. You did come away with the win. You picked the Lions. I picked the Giants. So it's a happy loss for me. I'm happy to lose on a Giants loss. You went 8-8 though. I went 7-9. So we're still. I think you're definitely over 500. I think I still am, if not right at 500. But week 3, let's go right after it. We'll go with the Thursday night game. The line was Rams 2.5, and I thought that was an easy over to take.
Yeah, I took that as well, as we're seeing now. I mean, it's that 2.5 line is such garbage. I can't stand seeing it. So not only did I take the Rams, but I picked them to cover.
Yep.
But yeah, and they're showing it early. Although it is a 7-point. Well, let me see. They might have just scored, but it was a 7-point game last time I checked. So
no, it's still 7. The Rams just got the ball back.
Okay.
So I think that was pretty easy. I don't have the over/under numbers anymore, but yeah, Rams. I think it's weird though. I mean, my sort of thought on why it would go that way. Thursday night game. We've seen these kind of seemingly layup road Thursday games kind of quickly on Gurley. That's really the only lock that you ever want to play on a Thursday night, fantasy wise, is a running back. I think I'm sure you have as well. Wide receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks, you don't know what the hell you're getting from them, especially if there's any kind of small injury. Running back is probably your only safe play on a Thursday.
No, I agree. I mean, it's a wacky day, and I think the short week hurts the intricate passing games, in the NFL, which I also think is important as well. But I think the next game would be the London game, Jaguars Ravens.
Is this a Twitter game? Is this why I'm not seeing what channel it's on ESPN?
It actually might be the Twitter game. I'd have to check that out. I think the line is 4.5. Baltimore's favored.
I have 3.5 Ravens.
Okay, I'm pulling up from ESPN, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have the ESPN up right now. 3.5 Ravens. Not really a true home game for the Jaguars, even though it counts as one of their games because their owner is I believe he owns Arsenal, but
okay.
Yeah, I think this is an over to take. I mean, a field goal is interesting. We've seen some of these London games play pretty well, but I'm going to take the over for the Ravens here.
That Ravens defense, I'm locked in there with you too. I think they're quite the defense, and I think it's quite the team. And they're making a statement early to say, "Hey, Steelers, we can't wait. We're coming after you." And that offense is going to get healthier and start to click as their pieces come together. Love the Ravens this year. Starting to really believe. But this is a test game because you are going away, are overseas. But I'm going with you. I'm going Ravens all the way to get to 3-0. Yep. I think the next game, and this is one of the games I really want to watch beyond the my birds, which I'll be at the game, so I'm not concerned about watching that one. But I wish I could be watching the Falcons-Lions.
Yeah, this will be a fun game to watch. Over under a 50.5. So you're expecting a lot of offense here. We're not disappointed in that Falcons victory over the Packers. Falcons 3-point road favorites at Ford Field. Also dome atmosphere. So, I mean, really the only difference there is that Atlanta won't be pumping in sound for themselves. It's just Detroit, whatever sound they're bringing. At 2-0, though, I think it's an intriguing line. I still think the Falcons, though. I mean, that line is pretty close. I think it's a little too close for Detroit's good. Or own good, I should say.
No. Outright, Lions win.
Outright Lions win?
Saw enough from this team. First of all, Falcons, home opener last week, going up against the big bad Packers. Great game. I know it was kind of a blowout, but great game for the Falcons. There's a hangover here.
Okay.
And I got to feel this Lions team looks special to me. Their Stafford is playing like the highest paid quarterback in the league.
He is. He's playing very well.
I like what they're doing, and I think they've got a little bit of moxie to them.
Ooh,
but I love
moxie.
What I really like is the defense. They're swarming. They've got some good pass rushers led by Ziggy Ansah.
True.
I think the Falcons are still a great football team. They have such good balance offensively. But I think they're going to be tested by this Detroit defense. On the road is tougher. They cannot pump the sound music. I think this is a letdown game for them after a huge emotional win as they opened their new stadium. So
that's a good point. I got burned a little bit last week on the home dogs. It's the Brent Musburger special, the home dog. I love it.
Yeah.
That's not nearly what the Brent Musburger impression should be, but there's the shitty impression of the week for you folks. Next game for me that I got here, Broncos at the Bills. The Broncos are 3-point road favorites. Matt, talk me through this one.
Does that blow you away? I think that's a terrible line. Did you not watch the Broncos? I know they were at home, but disarm and disable, arguably one of the best offenses. I know we argued against this, but one of the best offenses in football.
Yep.
And they're playing Tyrod Taylor and LaShawn McCoy. And throwing to who exactly? My boy Jordan Matthews? Nah. I hate this line. I think this is a terrible job by Vegas. I got to take the Broncos by a smothering touchdown or two. And I think they have Trevor Siemian showed me something. I'm shocked. I know it's a road game up in Buffalo, wacky weather, but this early in the season, I'm blown away by this line. I think this is a terrible line, and I got to go Broncos hard. I think that defense is going to match the Seahawks defense with a better offense. Only thing to watch out for, and I haven't done enough to see if he's down still, but Garrett Bowles. No, not Garrett Bowles. I'm right, yeah. The left tackle for the Broncos, the rookie, he went down last game, but it looks like he's back. So
okay.
If he's healthy, he was a first-round pick guy I really liked. If he's healthy at the University of Utah, that's a big thing. It looks like he's going to play. So I just looked that up for us here. I like him a lot. And I think this Broncos team is – this line is strange to me. This was almost one of my locks of the week.
I don't hate that.
I don't understand this line. I guess I don't get the line.
It's a weird line, over under a 40, so they expect it to be a low-scoring game. I mean, what that's basically telling you at a 3-point favorite, they're expecting it to be – what, 21 to – I'm trying to think of – it doesn't really add up there, like 22-19, 22-18. I mean,
guess I'd ask you.
It's a weird game, and, the, quote, wacky weather for this week in Buffalo is 85 degrees and sunny. So,
right. Well, I think I'd ask you this question then. Do you think that line is more of an indication of the Bills at home being a better team than we think? Or is that line more of a we're still not sold on Trevor Siemian?
I would say it's more the latter. I think Trevor Siemian we saw do okay last year. We've seen him look great this year. I mean, there's other factors to this as well. C.J. Anderson's had a great first 2 weeks with nearly 200 yards through it. Demaryius Thomas, surprisingly, no touchdowns yet, which shocks me.
Yeah, but it is Trevor Siemian at quarterback. I know he's played better.
That's true. Yeah, he has played better. But I mean, even with that, I guess what you're thinking there, or at least what they're trying to think, Trevor Siemian might not come out on the road so well.
That's true.
Especially crossover.
I haven't played on the road yet.
You have to respect the defense enough to give him the favorite. That's my best understanding of the line.
No, I'm with you. Next game, Steelers Bears. I have my notes have the Steelers as 7.5-point favorites.
I have that as well, and I think that's another interesting line. I want to say the Steelers are a better defense, but the way Tampa Bay played against Chicago last week, it's hard to think that the Steelers could play that well against this Bears team.
And potentially TJ Watt might be dinged. I'm not sure, but I can tell you this, though.
You're right.
The Steelers' offense is going to come together.
No, I agree with you 100%.
Martavius Bryant kind of surfaced last week. Le'Veon Bell hasn't had a big game. I know they're on the road in Soldier Field, but it's not that much different than playing in Pittsburgh. I love the Steelers in this game. Another one close to a lock. It's
a hot pick in survival football.
Yeah, I just don't like, honestly, I don't like Big Ben on the road. His road splits are really poor.
Yep.
But I still think the Steelers, and I think this might be Le'Veon's big time week this week. So I'm definitely got to go Steelers. Oh, and that's a pretty good line on the road for the Bears to cover. Too. But I got to go Steelers smoking the Bears again here. And
yeah, I got them at like 10 points by winning there.
Right.
I think 7.5 is a good line. It's enough respect for a home game for Chicago, but enough that you also can cover that pretty easily.
Right. Now, I think the next game, a little really doldrums game for me. Browns visiting the Colts. And, I mean, how often do you pick the Browns to win a game?
They're a favorite on the road.
I know, a half-point favorite on the road.
Half a point.
Obviously, Andrew Luck is playing. This doesn't even come close. But I'm taking the Browns here. I know they lost Corey Coleman, but I like enough of the Browns to say they can beat the Colts, who are struggling mightily. I also just want the Browns to win, but it's really a toss-up here. But I'm going Browns by a little.
I'm going to go with Colts outright. I think Brissett played okay.
He did.
I think this could be a nice little
in overtime, but other than that,
not so favorite there. But this is the Browns. As nice as it'd be to see them win. This is in Indianapolis. You're getting Frank Gore with playing okay. Still hasn't eclipsed 100 yards in the season in 2 games, so there's that. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be the big X factor for me is Deshaun Kaiser, how he plays. Obviously, like we say, if Andrew Luck does play, it's no, not even close. But if it's just Kaiser versus Brissett, and Kaiser really outplays him, then this could go Cleveland. But I'm gonna go with Indy.
Yeah, it's not the worst pick ever. There
I've made worse.
Yeah, I think next game I was eyeing up here. Dolphins at the Jets. The Jets look terrible. They look really bad.
I'm surprised that they didn't do the same thing that they did with Pittsburgh and Chicago, because I have the Dolphins at only a 6.5-point favorite, and I like that a lot.
Well, I got the Dolphins. I have them winning by that. I will say this, and we're going to get into this with a pick in a little bit here. It's a divisional game.
Yep.
And I think this is one of those things. It's like the Rams beating the Seahawks. It doesn't make any sense. But when you're playing a divisional opponent, they know you. They know your coaching staff. They know your players. You play them twice a year. I think it really does come into play, and I think that's why you see this line lower. And there are still question marks for the Dolphins. I mean, they barely beat the Chargers. I'm not sold. I love I really love everything but Jay Cutler on the Dolphins. I love the defense. I love their offense. Cutler has to prove to me that he can be a viable turnover-free quarterback in this league, because Jay Ajayi looks great, and so does that receiving core. And the Jets are terrible. So I'm taking the Dolphins with you. I think they're going to be over. But I do think this is the kind of game that could surprise you, because I don't think Miami is a guarantee like some other teams are. No.
And I agree with you there. What do you have next? Because your order's a little bit different than what's on ESPN.
I was going to walk right into the Buccaneers-Vikings game.
Okay, awesome.
Vikings,
What do you have for a line there? ESPN does not have one
I have
listed.
one as a 2.5 favorite for the Vikings, which I think maybe has gone down. Another basically essentially a pick'em line here.
Yeah.
I took the Bucks. I was very impressed week 1. I know they
I
were
agree with you. I agree as well.
Yeah, but I actually thought the Bears could sneak one there a little bit because the Bucks. Once again, this Vikings defense will officially challenge this Buccaneers offense.
Yeah.
But if Sam Bradford doesn't play, forget about it. But even if he does, I wasn't blown away with the Vikings week 1 like a lot of people were. I know they dominated, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But I have the Buccaneers winning.
No, I do too. I think, especially if Bradford's not in, forget about it. I just think though. I mean, they look so good. That defense looked great. You could probably see him scoop everybody into just a big dog pile. That all 11 players, even the wide receivers, throw them in. I think. I just think Jameis Winston, if he gets it going early, that could be over quick, both outright and in terms of points. For me, I got next Texans at the Patriots. This is a game between 1-1 teams, which if you told me the week 2 Texans Pats game they're both 1-1 and it's not a 2-0 Pats team or an 0-2 Texans team, I would be thoroughly shocked.
Yeah, I tell you, I actually don't like this line if I was picking. And I came really close to not taking the Patriots to cover. I have them 13.5.
I have it at 14 even.
Okay, so either way, I don't. I know they're at home. I know they looked great last week. I know week 1 was an anomaly, and I know the Texans haven't looked particularly strong. That's a lot of points for a Texans defense. I know they're playing the Patriots, but Gronk may be dinged up. Rex Burkhead might be dinged up. And Bill Belichick's teams do kind of the opposite of what you think. So I could see this being a very low-scoring game and the Patriots winning by 10 points or 7 points and being satisfied. I did take the Patriots as my cold, hard guarantee of the week. I'm already 2-0 early on, so still in all my pools here. I do have them winning, but I picked them to cover, but I was really more hesitant than I thought I would be. And Deshaun Watson can only get better, so we'll see what happens. I wasn't blown away by that. I think I wasn't blown away by the Patriots beating the Saints because the Saints are terrible on off defense. I thought they would be good. They're terrible. Yeah,
so with the Saints game, you're absolutely right. That's definitely a pad the stats game. We've seen an interesting Patriots run game with Burkhead, with all the different guys there. I agree. I think they cover. I could see him winning by 3 touchdowns. I could also see him winning by a field goal.
Right.
I'm probably going to say they win by 17. Just over the cover, or just over the cover line, the money line, if you will.
That's a great score. I like it.
Yeah. I think it's something where it's
touchdown or something.
I want to say it's 31-14 is the final score.
Okay.
I think Watson, it'll be interesting to see him in New England and against their defense.
Which is going to be healthier and continue to gel.
Exactly,
I think people are looking at week 1 and not getting that. New faces, injuries, that defense, as normal, will only improve as the season goes on.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the Patriots' big deal. They really try to get it all together. As Greg so eloquently told us at the Thunder Cup, they don't really like to try to blitz during the preseason, so they're really getting all the kinks out at the beginning of the season. I think they get it together, and I think the Pats do cover here.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you got for me next? Which game do you have on the list?
Let's go to one of my most fascinating games of the week, a game that I think people are going to be a strange one. It's Saints-Panthers.
Yep.
Could not be more opposite. Forget even the just because the Saints. Offense versus defense. The Panthers won I think it was 9-6 or 9-3 last week.
Yeah.
That's like a
weird
wild
game
score.
there.
Yeah. The Panthers' offense worries me. Now, they are pretty
Very volatile.
Very volatile, strong-willed, so they might just run it down the Saints' throats, although I think the Saints have a better defense than they've let on first couple weeks. They played Minnesota on the road in a funky game where Bradford couldn't miss, and they played the Patriots on a revenge week, but I'm not sold on the Carolina offense. Defensively, they're fantastic. Offense, I'm worried. First of all, I'm worried Cam Newton's still hurt. Second, I'm worried Cam Newton's too selfish. Not getting Christian McCaffrey involved. Not, he wants to be Superman. That's fine, but Superman needs to win. I'm taking it's a 6.5-point line favoring the Panthers at home. I'm taking the Saints to cover but not win the game. Although I could easily see them win the game, and if they don't win the game, then my pick of them winning the division is basically lost. But I'm willing to bite the bullet on that decision to say the Panthers win, but I think it's closer than 6.5.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I actually would say the Saints are more likely to win it outright than not. The points are very generous. I got it I think at 5.5. But regardless, I think they do very well. I think it's a good defense. And it's a tough defense to play on the road. But that offense, it's not convincing me. I mean, it's the Saints defense. We just got done talking about how it's not that good, but
I got to tell you, though, if I'm the Saints, this is a decision week for me.
Yep.
I either see if Adrian Peterson is my starting running back or I trade him. I pick up the phone. I call New York Giants. I call probably not the Packers, although that would kind of make sense, but I have Ty Montgomery, so please don't call the Packers. Maybe the Cardinals. I don't know. I call a team that needs a running back for injury reasons. And I say, I'm offering you Adrian Stinkin' Peterson. Maybe the Lions would be a great choice. Give me a 4th-round pick for him. You can have him because I don't understand the pickup. This is a Saints team. They throw the football. Alvin Kamara is there. Mark Ingram has proven himself now there, and you're really muddling a backfield that doesn't need to be muddled. So I just wanted to point that out. I think moving him might be in the Saints' best interest if they can.
It's an intriguing play. We've seen teams load up those backfields in terms of guys who just shuffle in and out. They haven't found that rhythm though, so it'll be interesting to see what goes on with them. But I think we're both on the money of Saints at least getting the points and taking it there. But the final 1:00 game, you're going to be there. The Eagles, Giants. I got the Eagles as a 6-point favorite. I could easily see – I think the Eagles win. I could easily see this being like a touchdown.
Yep.
But I think the Eagles do get it done. I say like 7 points just covering. But I think they do win regardless if you're going to take the Giants with points.
And I had some people say this has got to be one of your locks. This is your cold hard. This is the one you got to go with in your pick'em pools. I said no. I said I love my birds. Think they're going to win this game. Think they match up well against a struggling Giants team, but divisional opponent. Can't say that enough. A divisional opponent who's desperate. I gotta go. I taking the Eagles to cover the touchdown. I love that. The line I have is 5.5. Not sure where that'll fluctuate. But I considered picking the Giants to cover, but lose the game quite a bit. Just because it's a divisional game. And you know what? The Eagles are still a young team, still learning how to win. And so that's the kind of thing that could, allow this game to be closer than it needs to be for the talent levels. But I'm with you. I like a touchdown. I think it's a really good, whether it's we're up by like 10 points or 14 points late and they score to get to 7, I could see that.
Okay. Yeah, so you're taking the Eagles with the points as well?
I'm taking the birds with the points. Yeah, I am. I can't help it.
Gotta love it. All right, on to the 4:00 slate. Let's look right to, and my first one is the Seahawks and the Titans in Tennessee, right there in Nashville. I got the Titans as a 2.5-point favorite. Seattle coming across the road or across the country, excuse me. I don't know. Is this a UCLA Memphis type of line, or is Tennessee really going to do what Memphis did and pull this one out?
I like the Titans a lot this year. I do. I think they're gonna I think they're going to win that AFC South, which I think consistently comes in the season how good all these teams are going to be and are not, especially with Andrew Luck hurt. But I took the Seahawks. And I took the Seahawks because their defense is fantastic. DeMarco Murray might be banged up, but that's not really my problem. I think their defense is good enough to match up with any offense in the league. I took them because I think the Seahawks offense gets a slight reprieve because they're going to be playing a semi-worse Titans defense. Doesn't necessarily have the pass rush to get to Russell Wilson. They run the football with Carson, with Thomas Rawls, with Eddie Lacy, with that core down there, CJ Prosise. I think they win this game. I think it's a 2.5 point. That to me, that's almost a pick. It's almost a pick 'em, if not is a pick 'em, because it's a field goal. They win this game on a field goal. I like that line a lot. I know they're on the road, but I think they try to prove some doubters wrong that they can play a little offense, and they beat an up-and-coming Tennessee Titans team who's had a rough schedule to start the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Mariota has done all right. He's thrown for almost 500 yards to start the season. His guy Delaney Walker having a great start, as he has pretty much in Mariota's entire career. Quarterback's best friend's his tight end. That running game though for Tennessee does make me nervous if they can't really get it going, or they're trying to rely on a Mariota shuffling around.
Right.
That does concern me. And if you can't really get it there, even if Derrick Henry does some wonderful things, I think that Seahawks defense, it's tough to not see him gobble it up. I agree. I think it's very close. I would take Seattle with the points, even if it ends up being like a 1-point game, which would come out of maybe just a missed 2-point conversion, which we could see Pete Carroll certainly do that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm going to take the points for Seattle, and I'd say they went outright as well because of how close that line is.
Mm-hmm.
Next, though, I got a game.
Go ahead.
That I think is one of the better locks of the week. The Packers and the Bengals. The Packers come in at a 9-point favorite for me, and I think this game is going to get ugly quick.
Well, I don't know. I buried my crystal ball a long time ago in the backyard, and I look at this game and I say to myself, Bengals are 0-2. They're taking heat. I mean, I'm talking heat. And quarterback can't play. What happened to the defense? They still have players on defense. They're still immensely talented on offense. But what I stare at is this, I stare Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, dinged up. The offense, as they do normally early in the season, the offense had some struggles against Atlanta, and the defense took a little bit of a beating because I don't think they're as good as they showed week 1. I look at an absolute Bengals team that is dying to prove themselves. I think they come up short, but I pick them to cover because this is a team that had won divisions recently, and it's not like there's a different core. I like the Bengals to make this game much closer. The Packers every year they get on this weird little streak where they struggle offensively, and no one knows why. It's almost unexplainable, probably because as much as I love Ty Montgomery as this kind of like new hybrid back, they don't have a consistent running game to assist Aaron Rodgers, even though I think he's, without a doubt, the most talented quarterback in the NFL today. Not best, most talented. I have the Bengals covering and even potentially threatening late because they need this one to try to say, hey, by the way, we're not that bad. But what was your line? I have it at 9.5.
I have it at 9. So you're taking the Bengals with points?
I'm just taking the Bengals to cover that 9. So I'm not taking them to win because I can't.
Yeah, so you're taking it with the points. Covering is Green Bay winning by more.
Right.
Than 9.
No, right. I have them covering. Yeah. I have the Bengals winning. I maybe they lose by a touchdown. Maybe it's 6 points. I don't know. I just have a feeling. You look at the Bengals. There's so much talent there. Who's going to cover AJ Green? I think they've got something to prove. And Andy Dalton needs to have a good game, or else AJ McCarron might be under center.
Potentially, but I think you sound a little nervous, Matt. You're a big Aaron Rodgers guy. I just need you to All right.
Well, we can do that because this team is going to make – they've done this. They swoon once a year for 3 to 4 weeks where they struggle on offense.
Swoon.
Every year because they're working some kink out. I love the offense. I love watching them line up. They're still trying to figure out how to use Michael Bennett. Haven't really gotten Ty Montgomery going, not even as a runner, but even as a receiver. And they got blitzed early by an Atlanta team that was jacked up about their new stadium and it was very talented. But I still have the Bengals desperately enough figuring out a way to get close enough in this game.
All right.
A proud organization in Cincinnati.
So next one I got is the last 4 o'clock game. Chiefs-Chargers. Chiefs, for me, come in at a 3-point favorite on the road in Carson, basically L.A. I'm not convinced by this at all. I think the Chargers have gotten a bum deal to start the season. They had 2 close losses that could easily put them at 1-1 or maybe even 2-0. And I like the Chargers with points. I think you're getting a big bounce back week for the former San Diego. We give out free tacos because they're no longer in San Diego Chargers.
I could not have come closer to agreeing with you after watching a guy that I respect in Andy Reid do this enough, losing games that you didn't see him losing. This is a trap game, divisional opponent on the road, needing another desperate team, needing a win. Really liked the way that you may have convinced me right now to go back and change my pick. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm taking the Chargers to win this game. I just updated it. I'm done. I can't. I loved the Chargers. Thought they could compete for a playoff spot. So I've made the switch, and I'm going Chargers in this one with you. You're right. What a raw deal they have got. I could not agree more.
And a bum deal. Huge bum deal.
Broncos, Dolphins on basically an extra week's rest.
Yeah.
Right into the Chiefs. And I know they're playing in the toughest division. You're right. That's unfair. And I've got them. I've got them winning this game. I love it. It's a great line, too.
Yes. All right. Sunday Night Football. Raiders at Redskins. Raiders come in 3-point favorite. If it was a 4 o'clock game, I might say this is the same thing we just talked about with the Chiefs potentially. Redskins coming back from a West Coast trip. Raiders coming from the West Coast. So almost sets itself off. It's also a night game. So it gives you a little bit of time to reset, kind of get settled in, figure some stuff out. So I like Oakland here. I love Derek Carr. I think Marshawn Lynch looks great. Michael Crabtree, I think you don't necessarily get another 3-touchdown game out of him, but I think he's still a big factor, especially with the Redskins defense that is self, I'll say.
No, this is going to be a bloodbath. That's a strange line. I know it's Sunday night, and I don't get it. I want to know. I want to meet these odds makers. A couple lines this week that I've been very disappointed in.
There's a few. There's always a few.
I know they're trying to make sure they make money, but it doesn't make any sense to me. Raiders, and they're going to curb stomp this Redskins team. I don't like the Redskins team this year. I don't like their makeup, and I just think this Raiders team is really coming into their own. They've got some things they need to work out, particularly on the defensive side, but yeah, I've got them. And then I've got that week finishing up in a game that I thought was going to be a fantastic matchup if you had gone back, before week 1, and that's the Cowboys visiting the Cardinals on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head right there. It looked like it would have been a great game. Dallas comes in a 3-point favorite, which you have to wonder how. They look terrible at home. Home opener for the Cardinals, so you got to think that gives them a bit of a boost. It also makes you almost think, would Vegas think that in Dallas this is a 10-point Cowboy victory? But I don't know. It's an interesting matchup here. JJ Nelson actually had a great week last week. But I almost want to go with the Cardinals with the points here. You know what? I'm going to take it. I'm going to take Cardinals with the points at home on Monday Night Football.
I never thought about this twice. I already took Cardinals with the points at home. There's turmoil in Dallas. Zeke, discussion, love it, Love it as a Cowboys fan. I'm with you though. I think
hold the phone. What?
I think you. Oh, I'm sorry. Love it as an Eagles fan. I misspoke there. Oh my God.
Man. We
Don't
might
tell
need
anybody. Don't record this. Don't record this.
4-hour podcast.
Don't record this. Don't record this.
No, it's going up. We need to.
It's already up. It was a Freudian slip. It was a Freudian slip. Anyway, I'm with you. I got this all the way. Cardinals. Their defense is really good. People are forgetting this defense. This defense can play. Beyond that, I think there's issues with the Cowboys. And I think Patrick Peterson matches up great with Des Bryant. I think Tyrann Mathieu can take out Cole Beasley a little bit. I love this. I love this matchup for the Cardinals. I think the Cowboys 1-2, and I love every second of it.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I mean, the way that we've picked it, we got basically the Eagles at 2-1, is the division leaders through week 3. And I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen the Eagles be in 4th through, the quarter, the close to the quarter mark of the season. Still come away with it. Memory serves me of the 2013 season, the first ever Funvee tailgate, real tailgate in the Funvee, where the Eagles lost, and I think they moved down to like 1-3. And people were wondering, would Chip Kelly work in the NFL? Spoiler alert, it did not. He was on ESPN earlier this week. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, he was on ESPN breaking stuff, breaking it down a little bit, talked about his good friend Bill Belichick. He did a good job on TV with the Sports Center crew.
Yeah, he needs to get a chance. We've talked about this before, but he needs to get a chance.
He needs to go back to college. He'll be great in college.
I agree. Or Texas A&M might have an opening. Yeah,
they could. And could you imagine that every single year? What do you think would just quick, bring back the crystal ball. Let's engrave it. What do you think would be better legacy? The Harbaugh-Carroll rivalry, which spanned both the pros and the college game.
Okay.
Or Saban, Chip Kelly. Old school football guy, a lot of grit, and the new guy basically trying to do what Billy Beane did with Moneyball, but has these crazy offenses with crazy workouts, and everybody's tired and pissed off. Basically, he did the same thing, the same reasons people give about Jim Harbaugh. He had to have pro players that he couldn't just shuffle through every couple of years. They had to have guys that were always there and could hate him for a long time for the way he coached. I mean, college coach. But what do you think would have the better legacy? Which rivalry?
Man. I you know what? I think Alabama versus Texas A&M or some other SEC program playing, Chip Kelly.
Auburn. You throw Auburn, LSU. That division runs forever on just Saturdays for days, for weeks rather.
I gotta tell you, I could see that being one of the best rivalries, and Chip would be a thorn in the side of a Nick Saban team. Absolutely.
With Johnny Football as the QB coach.
Yep.
The ultimate Matty. That's the Matty D ultimate team. If you had it for college, for one, actually, just real quick fanboy here because I bought NHL today. But if EA Sports, if you're really making college football, NCAA football 19, because it would come out next fall, holy fuck! I'd buy a million. I would buy a million copies of it myself, and I would be so happy. I love that game. This year in NHL, really quickly, completely different sport, but you're able to move around teams division-wise, which they finally let you do in NCAA towards the last couple of years before EA Sports got sued. So it reminds me of it, and it makes me think they figured it out for the PlayStation 4. The only thing I would ask, bring back FCS teams. Don't make this any of this nonsense Northwestern State, yada, yada, yada crap. I want to, and 2K, when they make college basketball games, they make this able to be done. You can see, you play Lehigh, you go to Stabler Arena. If I play Lehigh in NCAA football as Michigan, I want to go to Goodman. I want to be able to do that, some crazy shit, and actually play them. But that's a topic for another day. We will be hopefully coming out with our hockey preview, the NHL, and basketball previews probably within the next couple of weeks.
Yes,
but
sir.
Nat and I, you and I will talk about that offline. Any other thoughts for football this weekend? Any other games you think we missed in the college game?
No, I don't think I think we've had a pretty successful kind of rundown. I think while every game matters in the pros, a little bit of a lackluster slate in college, a week where I think some teams could even lose and be okay in professional sports. I mean, in professional football, I'm not saying it's a down week by any means because I'm fired up to fire up. Well, we'll be firing up Red Zone. I'll be in the link watching my birds. So I'm fired up for that. And I can't, oh my God, I know we're going to tailgate. I'm so excited, fired up.
For the tailgate. And me and our good friend, Mr. Lucas Mr. Lucas, he's going to kill me because I'm going to mispronounce his last name. But he and I are going to come back, watch the game. We'll have a nice little mandate while you guys are in the stadium. But yeah, I mean, the tailgate scene, the first tailgate is always fantastic. If you've never done it at Lincoln Financial Field, I'm sure it's probably great for all of your teams. We've all seen Bill's Mafia and how fantastic that looks.
Are we referring to Lucas as in our friend Lucas?
Yeah, that's why I was.
Yeah, he can correct me, but I believe it's Migliorino.
Migliorino, okay.
You can ask him though on Sunday, but I'm not.
Luke Mig is his social media handles. But speaking of that, go follow us: Twitter, Thunder BLG, Thunderblog Sports, Instagram, and Facebook. All that good stuff. But one I did want to mention: always fun to watch the football version of the Duke UNC rivalry. Duke, of course, ruining UNC's season last year. Surprising that it's coming in September, but always fun to watch, and it's funny to have that a great college basketball rivalry on the gridiron. But yeah, kind of disappointing that it's a little early. Disappointing for both teams after having a couple up years, but kind of epitomizes this week on a weird Saturday. The fourth Saturday of September, as the SEC likes to name them. But I think that's going to do it for us, Matt.
That is going to wrap it up. But we'll be back next week. I know
we'll always be back.
We'll be here.
We'll always be here. And look out for the return of the bullpen cart, our baseball show. Been out for the last couple weeks. Greg and I were going to try to do a live one while he was here in Philly, but I was a little too tired last Friday once he got here, and then was in Chicago, like I mentioned. But look out for that. That should come out probably Monday night, I want to think. But that'll do us for football. Matt, thank you as always. Always a fun time with you, my friend.
Never a problem. Looking forward to it. You know what? Maybe I'll have to jump back into the little baseball action as we drive towards the playoffs. It's too bad Reese Hoskins can't jump in there. Oh,
our boy Rice Roning.
Anyway.
But that'll do it for us. For my man, Matty D, this is the G-Man, Jordy Cannell, Matty D, DeStefano. Have a good night, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.